Mackenzie Blackwood had another strong outing against his former club, and the Devils failed Jake Allen to the point where he showed his frustrations. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, College Hockey Play announcer, Devils Wire Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Where do I start? The New Jersey Devils went into Mile High City and got thrashed by the Colorado Avalanche by a score of 5-1. It was just a pathetic showing, and they imploded to close out the third period. I honestly don't know where to begin, because when there was less than 2 minutes remaining in the game, supposedly, Jake Allen checked himself out the game. He ran over to the bench, threw his stick in frustration, and Bill Spaulding even said it on air. That's the most animated he's ever seen Jake Allen. And quite honestly, I don't blame him. In the first segment, I will share my main takeaways from the game. Boy, oh boy, do I have a lot to share. Then, in the second segment, we will hear from head coach Sheldon Keefe. He spoke about the overall effort and also why did Jake Allen come out the game when there was less than 2 minutes remaining in the third period. And then in the third and final segment, I really don't want to, but I will compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade. But let's be honest, I think we all know what grade I'm going to give the Devils. Unacceptable. Before I share my takeaways, let me just go on a bit of a tangent regarding the Devils goalie, Jake Allen. Let me make something perfectly clear. This loss is not on him. He deserved much better. He was challenged right from the opening draw. He had to make like 8 saves in a matter of 5 minutes. That should not happen. The Devils just did not come out to play in the first period. Here's the thing. Jake Allen has been playing well all season long, but he's like one of the unluckiest people on the roster because when Jacob Markstrom's in net, the Devils score a decent amount of goals. The facts are there. I wish Jake Allen can go a game in which he only has to make 12 saves, but that's just not the hand that's dealt to him. This season, he has a record of 9-13-1, but his stats are really good. He has a goals against average of 2.7, a 908 save percentage, and he has 4 shutouts this season. That's tied for second most in the NHL, just below Connor Hellebuyck, who has 6, and Hellebuyck is going to win the Vezina Trophy. The Devils have been complaining about goaltending issues the past few years. Vitek Vanecek, Akira Schmid, Corey Schneider, Mackenzie Blackwood, who I predicted was going to get the start against the Devils. And wouldn't you know, he performed well against New Jersey once again, but digressing a little bit, one of the biggest Achilles heel for the Devils in recent years has been their goaltending. Now that they got decent goaltending, in fact, more than decent goaltending, pretty damn good goaltending, it all goes to waste. It's just so frustrating. Jake Allen wore this game on his sleeve, and yet the Devils did not perform well in front of him. He did not deserve that. This loss is not on him. If he voluntarily checked out the game when there was less than 2 minutes remaining, good for him. The team failed them, especially those 2 final goals from the Avalanche. Not a good showing. The game easily could have been 5-0 Avalanche in the first period, but it was Jake Allen keeping the Devils' hopes alive. The point is, Jake Allen does not deserve any slander. This loss is not on him, and he deserved a lot better. The Devils need to be better because they have way too much talent on their roster to be inconsistent. Here's a fun fact for you. The Devils have not won 2 straight games since late January. We're in late February. We are close to March, ladies and gentlemen. The playoffs are right around the corner. The Devils are still in a playoff position. They're one of the top 3 teams in the Metropolitan Division, but I've been saying it the last few weeks. This is not a championship caliber team. I really hope Tom Fitzgerald is on the phone lines trying to work something out because something desperately needs to change. It's just not working. Clearly, they need more scoring depth because outside of Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, sometimes Timo Meier, scoring can be tough to come by for New Jersey outside of their top talent. And that is not good. That is not a recipe for success. Because come playoff time, you have to beat a team 4 times out of 7 in multiple rounds. So there's your little tangent. Jake Allen, this loss is not on your shoulders. The Devils just got ill-advised penalties, and Nathan MacKinnon, he made them pay twice. And honestly, MacKinnon, he's just amazing with the puck. Both goals, I'm just like, how did he locate that, and how did he sneak it past Allen? Bill Spaulding even said it on air that people are going to say that Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL, but you could make a case for Nathan MacKinnon. You probably won't win the case, but you can make a case. The Devils completely collapsed in the third period. They were down 2-1 at one point, and then it was just an onslaught of goals from the Avalanche to basically make it a blowout. Those last 5 minutes, not a good showing from New Jersey. At least Jack Hughes and his brother Luke connected on something to give the Devils some life. And I was hoping that the Devils could generate something on Mackenzie Blackwood. But it didn't happen. The first period, they just weren't ready. The Avalanche are a tough team to keep up with. And the Devils just weren't up for the challenge right from the opening faceoff. And the proof is in the pudding because Jake Allen had to make multiple saves within the first few minutes of the game. Second period, Mackenzie Blackwood, he was standing on his head. He was phenomenal in between the pipes. And I feared that because Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, they are turning the Avalanche around because one of the biggest weaknesses for the Avalanche this season has been their goaltending. And the Avs, to their credit, they got Blackwood, they got Wedgwood, and now they are back in the playoff race. Kudos to them. Third period, I had hope. I really did. You cannot trail the entirety of the game and expect to turn it around when you choose. You can't just play 20 minutes of good hockey. In fact, the Devils didn't even play 20 good minutes of hockey. They played a few good minutes of hockey. They had their chances in the second. They had their chances in the third. But they couldn't capitalize on them. They couldn't finish. It just was not a good game. And it's just frustrating that the Devils can't string together a few wins consistently. I really thought the Four Nations break would be a turning point for them where it's like, okay, you hit the reset button once again because something after the Christmas break wasn't clicking. Use the Four Nations break to try to reset and get back together. Regroup. And they haven't done so yet. Okay. We're going to hear from Sheldon Keefe momentarily. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel because it keeps me connected with sports. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Okay, let's hear from head coach Sheldon Keefe about his team's effort or lack thereof in this game. Take a listen.
At this, as the game finished here, it's how do you process a game like this where, yes, it was a tough first period, but your team found a footing in the second, and you were only within one goal with really about 5.5 minutes left in the third?
Yeah, you guys are right there. I thought we had our share of chances, especially in that second period. But even in the first period, we had a couple, and game's right there. We don't score, so obviously that makes it tough. But we take a tough penalty in the second period, or excuse me, in the third period. And they score on it, and that's that was really took the wind out of our sails up until Jack's goal, and then. Another push and then another penalty, unfortunately. So, the game just kind of gets away at the end there. But we're right there all the way throughout, despite you being outplayed a little bit. Their best players are doing their thing, and we got to finish our chances. And we get enough saves to be able to keep fighting in the game. We just got to score.
We clearly saw the emotions from Jake Allen late in the third period. He really did an excellent job for about 50 minutes to keep this a really close game. What can you just say about his efforts and seeing an emotion like that from your backup goaltender?
Well, I think he's our number one goaltender right now. But I mean, he battled hard all game, probably too hard. That's why he was cramping up at the end there. So he was a little frustrated, and that's why I had to get him out because he was cramping up pretty good, dehydrated and such. So he gave us a chance. Like I said, we were in the game because of him, and we didn't score enough for him, which is unfortunately has been the story when Jake's been in for too many games this year.
How do you evaluate the PK tonight? Obviously, a couple fluky ones that get scored on you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, is early in the game it could get out of hand if the penalty kills do a job. Right, that 5-on-3 is a huge kill for us. They got just world class talent out there, and the PK did its job. Jake certainly supported them. But you just give those guys too many opportunities, and things start to go their way, and it's just exactly what happened. It's especially the first penalty we took in the third period there. That's a tough one. You're having such a hard time scoring goals, and you give them a second one. You give them power play, give them a second goal. It's an uphill climb from there. But still we're there. Jack gets a huge goal, and it's hard to win when you score one goal.
All right. I want to highlight something that Sheldon talked about, which is the Jake Allen situation. Let me just paint you a picture. It's late in the third period, and the Avalanche, once again, they're just going on a tear to close out the third and final period of regulation. Casey Middlestad and Logan O'Connor scored 2 more goals after McKinnon to give the Avalanche a 5-1 lead. There was less than 2 minutes remaining in the game, and Jake Allen skated off. And if you looked at the replay, you can see that he threw his stick in frustration. And a lot of people were speculating on social media. Did Jake Allen check himself out the game? Did Sheldon Keefe signal for him to come off and put in Nico Dawes? In my opinion, I think Jake Allen voluntarily took himself out the game because he was frustrated with the effort in front of him. The broadcast even talked about it. The goals from Middlestad and O'Connor, they weren't on him. And you could just tell he grew frustrated to the point where I guess he couldn't handle it anymore. Because like I said in the first segment, Jake Allen has performed really well this season, but it seems like the team can't really help him out. And it's just so frustrating because Jacob Markstrom, he's been having a good year and arguably has been the Devils' MVP. Jake Allen has been solid as a backup. And Nico Dawes, don't forget about him. He has appeared in 4 games, has 2 wins, 1 shutout, a goals against average of 0.83, and a save percentage of .968. The goaltending tandem of Markstrom and Allen and Dawes, whichever combo you want to throw out, has been really good for New Jersey. Yet the overall effort in front of them has been lackluster and pathetic. And this is where I have to question the Devils in terms of their direction. And this is something that I'm going to address in a future episode because the trade deadline, it's a little more than a week away. The Devils are still in a playoff position, but it's just like they can't continue to play like this. They've been relatively healthy all season long. Yes, they've had to deal with some injuries to players like Nico Hischier, Jacob Markstrom, but this team is far too talented to be inconsistent. Last year, the excuse was that the Devils were way more injury prone, which I will give them that. Lindy Ruff just lost the locker room or something like that, so he was fired midway through the season. Travis Green was named the interim head coach, but the only thing consistent about last year's Devils team was their inconsistency, and they're sort of repeating it after the Christmas break. The Devils haven't won against a good team in a good while. I think the last somewhat decent team they beat was the Tampa Bay Lightning back in January, but even then, that game went into overtime. And the only reason why the Devils haven't completely fallen down the ladder in the Metropolitan Division is because, remember, there were a decent amount of games that they've sent to an overtime or a shootout, so that's really saved their bacon. But the season is winding down, believe it or not. We are close to March, and the Devils really got to dig deep here. Because if they really want to make some noise in the playoffs, they got to get their act together right now. They have the goaltending, and I still think Sheldon Keefe is a good coach. But with the lineup combinations, it's just like it's screaming that the Devils need another piece to that lineup because it doesn't scream championship contender. Could Curtis Lazar be shown the door? He's been a scratch the last couple of games. I don't really know. I love Lazar as a person, but it doesn't seem like he's cutting it on the ice anymore. Curtis McDermott, I don't care what the record is when McDermott plays. I really don't. I think it's pure coincidence because he only plays a few minutes when he is suiting up. And if he's not fighting anyone, he's not really all that efficient. Eric Halla, he hasn't recorded a point in God knows how long. I was really happy to reunite with Tomas Tatar, but he hasn't done much of anything this year. Look, I've been inside the Devils locker room. They're all great guys, and I'm glad that they get along, and there's really no team cancers or anything like that. But in terms of playing, something has to change a little bit because this is pathetic. And Stefan Nason even talked about it a few weeks ago, saying that it comes down to actually caring and wanting to be here. He called out his team. He said, you got to put in the effort in order to execute the right plays and come out with a sense of urgency. And the Devils haven't done that. So there's my little tangent. And if Jake Allen, like I said, did check himself out the game, good for him. If he voluntarily did that, I have no issue with it. The team did not deserve him. He did what he was supposed to do, and they failed him yet again. Okay, we're going to compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade momentarily. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about Trade Coffee. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee. But I got tired of settling for grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. 'It. That's why I turned to Trade. And let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the US, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. As you guys know, I constantly travel, so I rely a lot on coffee to get me through the airports, the morning skates, all that. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnHL. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/lockedonnHL for 40% off your first order. Drinktrade.com/lockedonnHL. Okay, even though I don't want to, let's compare the stats, give the Devils a letter grade, and get out of here. Shots on goal differential 36-23 in favor of the Avalanche. Power plays, Devils were 0 for 2, Avalanche were 2 for 4. Hits 22-16 in favor of the Devils. Giveaways 22-19 in favor of the Avalanche. Takeaways 5-3 in favor of Colorado. Block shots 15-12 in favor of the Avalanche. Time spent in the penalty box, PIM, 8-4 in favor of the Devils. Okay. If I had to give the Devils a letter grade, oh, this is really tough. No, it's not. I'm going to give them an F because it just was not a good ending. That was beyond pathetic. One of the worst things I've seen from this group all season long. Had they not imploded to close out the game and completely failed Jake Allen, the letter grade will be a little higher because, like I said in the first segment, they were creating some decent looks for themselves in the second and early parts of the third. In fact, they scored in the third period thanks to Jack Hughes, but the last 5 or so minutes was just completely discombobulated. Mackenzie Blackwood, to his credit, he had another great showing against the Devils. Courtesy of Daniel Moya, here's Blackwood's career numbers against the Devils. 3 games played, plus 5.03 goals above expected, 79 of 80 saves, 988 save percentage. Remember, he shut out the Devils back in November when he was still a member of the Sharks. The Devils' next game is against the Utah Hockey Club. I'm hoping that the Devils can put together a few string of wins for the first time since late January. I know we had the Four Nations break and all, but still, it's been a while since the Devils have gone on a winning streak. Just 2 or 3 games. That's all I ask. Just take it game by game. And trade deadline is a little more than a week away, but that's not going to be your only saving grace. The team right now has to work together, especially the bottom 6, because there's no guarantee that the Devils are going to get somebody. I'm confident that they will, but that's not a guarantee. Share your thoughts below. What did you think of this overall outing from the Devils, and what have you been liking from Jake Allen? Do you think he was at fault for the loss? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. Once again, if you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's what I'm going to have for you. Thanks for listening. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening. Once again, hoping that the Devils can turn things around.